Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's March 23rd, 2022, and today I want to do another video on, specifically on this one, about vernal pools. And I've made videos in the past talking about vernal pools, in talking about them when I'm talking about the ponds, swales, canals, and the functions of all of these different systems. And this is a time of year that's so important in forested areas in central New York. So we're coming out of winter, the snow is melting, and there's a lot of activity going on in the forest under the leaves. I posted a video in August 19th, 2020, titled Benefits of Ponds, a Freshwater Ecosystem. So I thought I'd play a little bit of that video to start out with. Then I'm going to come back and talk to you about another video that I think is going to help explain some of the importance of these freshwater ecosystems. So here we go. Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's August 18th, 2020. Last night, or early this morning rather, we got just over an inch of rain, and we've been in a drought for a long period of time. And I've been producing some videos or recording some video footage of the ponds, how low the water is as a result of the drought this year. This is our most severe drought. And how I'm working down with the beaver dams and the beaver ponds as well. And Kathy Baby actually asked a really good question. What are ponds good for other than for producing mosquitoes? And certainly we should all be aware of the potential risks of being bitten by a mosquito, because dengue fever, Zika virus, Eastern equine encephalitis, West Nile virus, all of those things are potentially transmitted by mosquitoes, and therefore lots of insecticides are used indiscriminately and inappropriately in people's housing districts to try and control unwanted mosquitoes as well. So to decrease the risk of people contracting some of these terrible viral diseases. So the first thing I want to do is to say that ecology is the study of ecosystems, and aquatic ecosystems are extremely important. And an ecosystem is a balanced, environmentally natural system that helps to control populations of things like mosquitoes. So where are most mosquitoes coming from in our environments? Well, So I thought what I'd do is hold up right there with this video. If you're interested in watching that video, you can just search on my channel, The Benefits of Ponds, a Freshwater Ecosystem. That was August 19th, 2020 is when it shows up on in my YouTube channel, or our YouTube channel. I go through some of the ways of dealing with mosquitoes in buckets and pails and a whole variety of things, and then I go into some of the importance of understanding some of these aquatic ecosystems. But I think there's another video that I think is super important to be aware of, and this is from the New York State DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, and this has to do with amphibian migration. So what I thought I'd do is go ahead and start playing this video so that we can, so I can talk a little bit more about vernal pools, which I've mentioned many times in videos. So here we go.
In the Hudson Valley, there are several species of amphibians that live in the forest, mostly underground, and they breed in vernal pools in late winter and early spring. These are species of conservation concern in New York and include spotted salamander, Jefferson blue-spotted salamander hybrid, and wood frog. When they migrate to vernal pools from their overwintering habitat in the forest, they often encounter roads and driveways where mortality from vehicles can be high. So the Hudson River Estuary Program started the Amphibian Migrations and Road Crossings Project, and it was to address this mortality of amphibians that are crossing roads during their seasonal migrations. And again, those happen usually in late March, early April. They are hunkered down basically until the air temperature starts to warm up and the ground thaws. And so once those conditions start to align and we get a good rainy night, that's usually when they start moving, because they need to move in wet conditions. We'll get movements of hundreds, if not thousands, of amphibians. And some of them travel as far as a quarter of a mile. So you can imagine if you're only a 7-inch salamander or you're a small wood frog, moving a quarter of a mile is quite a long distance. And there's a good chance you're going to encounter some roads on the way. Habitat loss, road mortality, those have both been identified as threats to amphibians. Amphibians globally, we know, are facing a lot of challenges and are in decline. And in the United States, the U.S. Geological Survey has attributed land use change and the associated habitat loss and degradation to amphibian declines in the United States. And they also consider climate change to be a factor, which is understandable because these species are so dependent on these seasonally flooded wetlands. There's no way the DEC or any conservation organization could ever have enough staff to cover the entire Hudson Valley on these few nights every spring to see where migrations are happening. But by having hundreds of volunteers driving around, trying to find migration crossings, we're learning a lot more about where these are happening so that we can learn where's mortality high and where do we really need volunteers or road closures or some other mechanism to try to make sure that we're reducing mortality and we're saving these local populations.
My name is Peter Stewart. I'm a local in Red Hook, and I'm volunteering tonight along with dozens of other people helping salamanders cross the road. Well, on nights like this, as you just saw, it's a thaw. They're coming out to go to their ponds, lay their eggs, and with the invention of human traffic, we need to help them. So I've been patrolling this road tonight for about 30 minutes. So far, I've gotten one spotted salamander, but a couple little frogs didn't make it so far.
In many communities in the Hudson Valley, residents and local government officials are concerned about small wetland protection because wetlands that are small in size generally are not protected by state and federal regulations. And we've been trying really hard to educate communities about the importance of vernal pools, not just for protection and conservation of the pools themselves, but also adequate forest habitat around them. Because if a community cares about spotted salamanders and wood frogs and other species that breed in the pools, it's really important that they also protect the non-breeding habitat, which is forests like I'm standing in. So we've really been trying to educate land use decision makers about the importance of habitat connectivity between forests and wetlands, the importance of knowing where your vernal pools are so you can plan proactively and educate landowners about ways they can steward their vernal pools better and make sure they're healthy, viable breeding habitat for amphibians. And eventually, once we have a really solid body of data, we can use that to make better decisions. Much like the Atlantic sturgeon is a symbol of a healthy Hudson River, amphibians like spotted salamander and wood frog are signs of a healthy estuary watershed. We continue to learn about forests, wetlands, and the whole estuary ecosystem through the dedication and help of our amazing volunteers. Good to know that these volunteers are spending time in the rain, in the dark, in less than favorable conditions, and they're willing to do that to help these species that really require conservation attention to make sure we have them to enjoy for future generations.
I get very close with nature, and that's what makes it fantastic. Right up and personal with them. I'm helping a good cause, and I just love being a part. It's a great community of volunteers.
So the vernal pools, is, you may have recalled me mentioning them as we go through the development of this property and in its relationship, its integration into the forest areas. It's so important to have these vernal pools, and these vernal pools are places where the fish are not inhabitants because the vernal pools dry up. They're seasonal wetland areas. And I've talked before in other videos about the importance of bogs and other aquatic ecosystems and their role as far as keeping things in balance. A really good balanced ecosystem is sort of like having a healthy body with various organ systems, your musculoskeletal system, your endocrine system, your circulatory system, all of those different systems and all. So as we're developing this property, not only are we trying to produce resiliency for food and habitat for the native species that we think about, like with the beaver pond, the beaver, the fish in the ponds, those sorts of things. All of these amphibians are so important to help control the mosquito populations as well, and therefore the various pesticides that are being used, the insecticides that are being used and sprayed, aerial spraying in this part of the country, won't be necessary if we can integrate enough of these vernal pools and decrease the non-vernal pools, the buckets and the old tires that have water in them. It really only takes a small amount of water for a mosquito to reproduce and to potentially transmit some of these deadly infections. So being very mindful of our ecosystems, including our transient aquatic ecosystems. And as I've talked before, in some of our ponds, they're going to dry up because this is a large gravel bed area. But as those ponds seal and they become more permanent aquatic systems, then we need to make sure that we're putting in more vernal pools and making sure that we're creating the right niches for each one of the inhabitants in these ecosystems. So I thought this video may potentially be of value to you. I'll put a link to both of these videos in the description below, the one that I made last year and this one that was posted in February 20th, 2018 by the New York State Department of Conservation. So if you found this video of value, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. We can control these undesirable pests that we have in our environments by being mindful of the life cycles and what interrupts those life cycles. Thanks so much for watching and have a super fantastic day. Bye-bye now.